You're listening to the Wise Women Podcast, episode 20. I'm your host, Alisha Wilford, founder of Yoke and Abundance, a creative leadership coaching business. This podcast is designed to inspire by introducing you to creative women living abundantly. I hope you'll savor Luck's words of wisdom as much as I have. Thank you so much for coming on the journey of the Yoke and Abundance Wise Women podcast here in season 1. I hope you've loved hearing from the women we've chosen to talk with in our first season. This is our last episode of 2018. We'll be starting back up the first full week of January, and you can expect to hear a brand new season of episodes starting Tuesday, January 8th. Today, for our last episode of the season, I've saved one of my first interviews. It's an interview with one of my personal favorite people in Greensboro, Luck Davidson. Luck is the Triad Local First board chair. She works so hard to make a difference for our local independent business owners. Luck is humble, working tirelessly, never seeking any recognition. She advocates and goes to bat for our local businesses like no other. I know she is often a behind-the-scenes angel with her resources, and she makes an impact in our community in a way that would be sorely missed if she wasn't a part of it. This interview is a little bit dated because we recorded it back in May, but if you're a lover of supporting local, if you believe in independent local businesses, then you will love this episode. I also want to note that we talk about a project that Luck was starting to get off the ground, a Women Independent Business Owners Networking Group, and I'm excited to report that I'm now in the role of helping develop that network for Triad Local First alongside the work I do with my business, Yoke and Abundance. I think you'll love this interview with Luck Davidson, a woman who is truly luck for so many. But first, a word from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Triad Local First, a nonprofit membership organization based in Greensboro, North Carolina, with members throughout the Triad. Triad Local First's members include independent, locally owned retail shops, real estate agents, insurance brokers, marketing and advertising firms, accountants, dentists, restaurants, farmers, breweries, and more. TLF's mission is a commitment to building a strong local economy and a vibrant, unique community. For more information on how to serve local independent businesses this holiday season and throughout the year, visit www.triadlocalfirst.com/buy-local-season. Can you state your name for me, please?
Yes, I'm Luck Davidson.
And Luck, are you comfortable sharing your age?
Yes, I am 62 years old, born in 1955.
Years young.
Right.
Years young. So can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Well, I was born in Boston. My dad was a teaching fellow at Harvard Law School, so my parents were up there for a year. And then they moved to Atlanta, which is where my dad was from, where he started practicing law when I was a year old. And I grew up there until I was 18, and I wanted to go to New England to college, so I went to Smith College, which is in Northampton, Massachusetts. So after graduating from there, my first job was in Washington, D.C., with Congressman White-Fowler, who was a progressive member of Congress. He was a Democrat. It was kind of unusual back in those days to have a progressive from Georgia. And I worked for him for 4 years, and then moved to New York when I got married that's where my husband at the time was working on Wall Street. And we had, by the time we'd had 3 children, and I was working part-time, but not doing really what I really wanted to do with my life, except for the children part of it. I talked him into moving back to North Carolina, which is where he was from. And so we moved to Greensboro in 1992, and that's where for the most part, my children grew up in Greensboro, and where I have lived ever since. Absolutely love it here. I'm no longer married, but I'm so glad that this is where I ended up, and just absolutely think North Carolina is a perfect place to live in terms of the terrain and the weather and the climate and the beauty of nature here, but also the things that are happening here. It's an exciting place to live. There's no, it's a purple state politically. It's not red or blue. Your vote does make a difference, so I really like that. And then just what's happening in all the small towns around here, where the towns are realizing that they're going to have to work really hard and struggle to stay alive. And so there's lots going on in the smaller towns and cities in North Carolina. There's a lot going on in the big cities too, but you can take a day trip from Greensboro to so many places and find neat little shops and bookstores and coffee shops and breweries and outdoor camping opportunities and the beauty of nature. So I feel like I'm doing a promotional spot for living in North Carolina, but that is truly the way I feel.
I feel that way too. I don't want to say it too loudly though.
Don't want the whole world here for some reason. Yeah, I know. Well, we need the tourism, so you can say it to people who you know would come visit.
Right.
And there's so much to do when somebody does come to visit. I mean, you probably have found that out. But yeah, we don't want the whole world to move to North Carolina.
Yes. You said that you weren't doing initially what you wanted to be doing, kind of early on in your marriage. What was it that you felt a calling to do?
Well, it's kind of, I feel like I'm old enough now to be able to say that, I truly don't believe you can have it all in your life. So there were some balancing acts that you have to do as the kind of mother I wanted to be, where I really had a lot of time with my children. Couldn't do that and pursue a hardcore career. So with 3 little children at home, I wasn't doing career-wise what I wanted to do. But I kind of dabbled in journalism and in some of the political things that were going on. And in some of the nonprofit organizations. So I always knew I would get back to it. But while my children were younger, I didn't mean to say that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, but I wasn't working toward the kind of work I wanted to be doing.
Right. It wasn't that you weren't enjoying what you were doing as far as raising children, but the work that you were doing maybe wasn't exactly...
I knew I had to put that on the back burner and do jobs that gave me flexibility to be home when I needed to be, or to take my kids to the doctor, or to go to a teacher conference and that kind of thing. Their dad definitely didn't have a flexible schedule, so it was going to have to be me. And looking back on it, how lucky that it all worked out so that I was able to land where I did and to do what I love doing now, and that I've been able to stay healthy enough at this stage of my life to really be professionally doing what I love doing, and what I didn't exactly know what it was, but if I had known about the localist movement then, or if I had known about promoting loving where you live and that kind of thing, I know that's what I would have been aiming to do.
Can you tell us more about what you're doing now?
So now I have been affiliated with an organization here in the Triad called Triad Local First, and it's a nonprofit organization, and we promote supporting locally owned independent businesses. And so we try to support those businesses, businesses like bookstores and shops and local artists and single employee firms that are in advertising or in marketing or PR, or even some dentists and doctors that are locally owned businesses, shops that do repairs for jewelry and cars, just very small independently owned businesses, which I believe are what make a community tick and what gives a community their character and their vibrancy. And without those businesses, your community is just going to be like any other community and not have a real personality and flavor to it that is unique. So we support those businesses through Triad Local First, and then we also try to help other people understand the importance of those businesses, because we do see that, of course, sadly, the trend is that those businesses are having a very difficult time surviving now. And with the trend toward purchasing things over the internet, goods and services, a lot of businesses are not able to survive against that kind of competition. So that a lot of people who are spending their money online instead of, some of their spending at a locally owned business aren't even aware of how important their dollars are to those businesses. And then, a business will go out of business, like that's happened 2 or 3 times this year, where everybody has said, oh no, I loved that store. I hate that they're going out of business. What happened? And we're like, well, have you shopped there lately? Well, no, I probably hadn't shopped there in the last year. The truth of it is, you have to kind of be a regular customer, and you kind of have to remember that little shop is there. And remember, even if you're paying $1 more for a book at Scuppernog Books than you would pay if you ordered it on Amazon, what are you getting for that extra $1? We understand that you can't do that for all your purchases, but for some of them, why not? I mean, it's making such a difference in the community to have a locally owned bookstore here.
I am so with you on that. I shop a lot of times at Deep Roots, which is our local co-op, and the thing about that is that I've heard somebody say recently, oh, I want to get that same thing, but I don't want to pay Deep Roots prices. Well, okay, you're paying maybe $1 more for the exact same thing you'd get somewhere else, but while you're doing that, you're supporting local farmers, you're supporting local jobs, and your dollar is a vote.
And all the different community-oriented activities that come out of that market. They're constantly doing things that bring the community together, and they don't charge for those things. Your dollar may be going to some of that. And like you said, obviously supporting the local farmers. I didn't mention them earlier. That's one of the key things that we need to be doing, because there's so many young people that are trying to or considering going into farming now. And who would have ever thought that would happen? The farms have traditionally in my lifetime been so huge, and young people weren't going into farming. Well, they are now. And if we can support them, and I'm not saying, you have to buy every head of lettuce at the farmer's market, but if you buy 1/2 of your produce at the farmer's market, or 1/10 of it, it makes a huge difference if we all did it, instead of what's the fastest way to do it, or the cheapest way to do it, or the most convenient way to do it. We've got to do a few things that might not seem like the most efficient thing to do in order to have the kind of world we want. I'm sounding like I'm preaching, but it's most people believe that. They just don't focus on doing it. I love that you mentioned Deep Roots, another business that, that when people talk about what's the key business that you can think of, well, our local bookstore, Scuppernog, but we had a time when our three local bookstores went out of business the same year, and that was the year that Barnes & Noble and Borders opened their doors. And I go to Barnes & Noble, so I'm not saying don't ever go to Barnes & Noble. You have to sometimes, but if you can spend some of your book buying money at Scuppernog, if you can go into Scuppernog to buy your cup of coffee every once in a while, and believe it or not, they sell wine there that's really good. we all drink coffee and wine every once in a while, so go there to buy it, because they're trying to make it easy for people to support them, even if you don't have a need to purchase a book. And believe it or not, you can go in and you can order a book, and they can have it ready for you in 2 days if they don't stock that book. So
I order books from them all the time, and their turnaround is so fast.
And they just, so the support that you put into supporting Scuppernog Bookstore is supporting the programming they do 7 days a week. And you know better than I do what that programming is. They reach out to every segment of our community to do
it's great,
wonderful programming. But I wanted to this is not a secret to you, Alisha, because you work downtown a lot. But one of the neatest things that's happening in downtown Greensboro is that so many independently owned businesses are popping up down there, and a good percentage of those businesses are owned by women. And so if you want to support a woman-owned business, or you want to support a locally owned independent business, go to downtown Greensboro. They are popping up everywhere, and they're so, downtown we have small businesses that are doing marketing and doing PR and doing selling furniture, doing interior design, doing the flotation therapy.
That's my newest addiction and favorite.
Okay, talk about that.
The float tanks at Sonder. Have you been?
I've been in Sonder, but I have not done a flotation therapy session.
Oh my goodness. Look, it is so cool. So you go in and you take a shower, and then you get in either the tank or in the pod. I've only done the pod. And you close the pod over you, and you lay there, and you just float, because the Epsom salts are so much salt in the water, right? And it's complete darkness. You can add a little light if you want to, if for some reason the darkness bothers you, but I liked the complete darkness. And they even have it so you can listen to guided meditations if you want to, or you can just lay there. And I was on their website today looking at all of the different benefits that it has for your body.
Well, what are some of the benefits? Because I know, so I wanted to recommend it to a friend of mine who has a lot of anxiety.
Oh, that's a great thing that it helps with. The deep relaxation, especially if you were to put on a guided meditation. It also, the Epsom salts, soaking in them for an hour like that, helps you sleep later. It helps you go into a deeper sleep later in the day. It's supposed to be fantastic. Helps with anti-inflammatory.
How great.
Yeah.
Because, at my age, that's something I definitely am dealing with, and I'm trying to do everything right to keep that at bay. But so it sounds like it's definitely worth giving that a try.
Oh, yeah. Even their wellness cafe. I mean, I've been getting their turmeric lattes, and turmeric is also another anti-inflammatory thing, and they put pepper in it, which you don't get the anti-inflammatory benefits if it doesn't absorb into your joints unless you have the pepper. So I get a little collagen, they put pepper, coconut milk, it's just delicious, and it's such a relaxing...
It sounds awful, but I'm so glad you recommended it. No, I will try that just because you recommended it. It'll be the Alisha special. Yeah. But so the flotation therapy at Sonder, and then there's a couple of bakeries downtown, and wonderful, everybody knows about the Green Bean if you want coffee, but there's a couple of other coffee shops downtown, and there's and we love the Green Bean, but you can go 2 or 3 different coffee shops if you walk all the way up and down Elm Street. And then of course, if you need to buy a gift, there's so many great shops that have gifts, real special gifts, real uniquely and hand-selected gifts. Clothing, I just saw something about a new clothing manufacturer, Ann and Ann.
Yes, she's great.
I've just seen a couple of pictures of some of the work they're doing with some, their hand-sewn, very unique shirts for women, and then some of their shirts are unisex, but they looked amazing, so different. And then, you can just, I'm sure you can tell from what I'm saying, there's a couple of breweries, there's Boxcar, I love where I meet with you sometimes, HQ.
Oh, our co-working space is amazing.
So do you think everybody out there in the audience knows about HQ?
Oh my gosh, HQ Greensboro is the co-working space in Greensboro, and it's just a hive. You know, if you want to be an entrepreneur in this community, it's the place to go, because it's how you meet and become a part of that community, and it just spurs you to be better.
It does. I've noticed when I go in, there's just a totally different energy in there, and it's a real mixed bag of people who work from there. It's not, I guess I thought the first time I went in there that it was going to be all kind of 40-year-old men, white men. And I went in there, and it is so different from that. And I saw a lot of women in there, which surprised me, and then I see a lot of diversity in there, and I've seen the people I've been working with there, I've seen how energized they get from working in close proximity to each other. I don't think you're going to go into HQ and sit around napping.
Oh, no.
You're going to bounce your ideas off people.
Absolutely.
And, it just seems like a great place to be productive.
Yeah. So you're so involved in the community now. Did you always have that sense of purpose?
I had it, but I didn't think about it consciously. I've always been interested in good government, so that kind of brings you into contact with a lot of different kinds of people and a lot of different issues that are happening in your community. And you can't be a shrinking violet if you're interested in political in what's going on with a political race or with a political issue. You have to kind of get involved, or you'll go crazy thinking about you need to get involved. So I think another thing that has kind of occurred to me is that I'd rather be in a place where there's a lot of problems to solve, because if you just I've never been happy when I was in a comfortable zone, and I'm in so many ways I'm very comfortable, but I always want to have issues that are challenging me and challenging my community, so that if I'm right there in the middle of it gets me motivated, and I feel like my life has got its purpose. Right when I moved to Greensboro, well, there've been so many issues here, but Greensboro, if you listen to some people, they think that Greensboro has just a long way to go in terms of relations with people, and how difficult it is to relate to the police department and that kind of thing. But really, I've lived a lot of places, and this is a community that tries to work together and is trying to listen to each other. And we have some really amazing leaders who they may not know the solution to things, but they are really open to listening. So I feel like when some of the things that happen in other cities, when they do happen here, we're a little bit ahead of some cities in terms of we've already started the discussion on some of the problems that we have. We know we're not perfect, which I do appreciate about this town. We used to have a city council and a county commission that argued all the time, and that it looked like they were never getting anything done. I don't see that now. I think people on those two bodies of government are trying to work together to solve problems much better than they used to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because of your work with Triad Local First, you get to see businesses from startup to maturity, and sometimes even to end. What advice would you give someone trying to start a business, or if they have an idea, what would you tell them given what you get to see?
Gosh, that's such a great question, Alisha. There are a lot of resources now that weren't around 5 years ago. So there's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs now to develop their business plan, to work with folks that are experienced in starting businesses, to get financing, to find help with marketing. So, I would say definitely take advantage of the resources that are out there. So some of them are through the city of Greensboro. There's a small business office that has 3 or 4 people who do nothing but try to help and take you by the hand if you've got a business that you want to start. And so a lot of times you've got to get permitting and licensing and that kind of thing, and they will help you with that. Then there's groups like it's interesting, the YWCA has a small grant to work with women entrepreneurs and help them get started and grow. And it's called Passion to Purse. And I just referred somebody to that little advising group about a month ago, and I saw that person last weekend at the farmer's market, and she said, "This is the best thing I've ever done. They're helping me so much." She said, "Have you noticed how my social networking has gotten better just in the last 4 weeks?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did notice." And she said, "Well, they're helping me with that." And then, of course, Triad Local First can help with some of the marketing. We've got the Chamber of Commerce, which is geared toward helping with networking. The Merchants Association as well. I think each of those groups kind of has specialization areas, and so if you're an independently owned business, I would say come to Triad Local First. If you're the smallest of the small grassroots businesses, come to Triad Local First. We want to help you. Some of the larger businesses and more established businesses that need great networking opportunities, I would say go to some of those other organizations might be a little bit better if you only can do one. And then there is the Nausbaum Center, which several businesses that I've talked to have had help there writing a business plan. So there's also places that will help you find actual space to locate your business in temporarily while you're getting your feet on the ground. That has been a real issue in other cities, and it's getting to be an issue in Greensboro. Affordable retail space and affordable office space. We've got to really keep our eye on that, because that will discourage people from starting their businesses here, and they'll go somewhere else if we can't get that problem under control.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. One of the projects that I know you're working on right now is WIBON with Triad Local First. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that project is, where the idea came from, and how you see it benefiting Greensboro?
Well, WIBON, the acronym, stands for Women Independent Business Owners Network. And about a year and a half ago, when I just was out and about in the community, several women, spaced out about a week apart, it was probably 6 different people came up to me and said, "Can you help us find a networking group that can help us with things that are specific to being a woman business owner? And we want to talk to other women. We want to be in a trusted place where we can get advice on some of the issues like finding retail space, or who's a good lawyer, or do you know a bookkeeper that would come work at my business 1 hour a week?" Some of those problems that, you just don't know who to go to, who to ask a question like that. So we realized that there was a fund through the community foundation called Women to Women that was offering funds. Once a year you can apply for a grant from them. And we got a small grant from them to study whether there was a need for a women independent business owners networking group. And so we've been doing that study with the help of a consultant this year, and we were getting feedback and doing some surveys and talking to people one-on-one. and Jeannie Duncan through Raven Consulting has helped us with that. So we're at the end of that study, and we think that the answer is yes, there is a need. And so we're going to start year 2, which is really exciting because some of the women business owners, and hopefully you're one, Alisha.
Full disclosure, I think I'm going to be one of those.
Hopefully. And we'll kind of take more of a leadership role in year 2 and start to form this group with the needs in mind that we have determined through our first year of research. And so I think it's going to be kind of a young group at first. I think everyone will be welcome. If you own a independent business, you will be welcome. But we've got some very energetic younger women that want to be involved in this and that think it's important and that can see the value of having such a group. There are such groups in other cities, and they're really accomplishing a lot. So I think that it could be a real great resource here in the Triad to have such a group.
Absolutely. What's something backing up? I'm going to back up. If you could go back and tell your high school or your college self something, what piece of advice would you give young Luck?
Well, young Luck in high school was a Southern belle, and she wanted everybody to like her, and she just tried to make everybody happy. She wanted, her parents to be proud of her, and, she tried to do everything just the way people in Atlanta in 1965 or 70 were doing it. And, I think that she missed some opportunities because she was trying to please others. And so I have 2 daughters now. When they do something that is kind of either against the advice that I give them or not what I would have done, but not too crazy, I am so thrilled because I've always wanted them to be really independent thinkers, which I will say I was not early on. I was independent in some ways, but I wasn't an independent thinker. I kind of wanted to fit in. So when they show their independence, I'm thrilled. And, when I have somebody working with me who's younger, who shows that independent streak, or who kind of has already found what they love doing, and it's not exactly, maybe what their parents thought was what they should be doing, or not exactly something that society values yet. Those kinds of things, I always love seeing that, and I usually think it's going to work out. I was talking to my sister. She's kind of the same age I am, and she grew up in the same household, obviously. And we were talking about how our parents didn't value failing at things, and they didn't value, having teachable experiences from failures and that kind of thing. They just kind of swept the failures under the rug, and we didn't discuss them too much. But we heard an interview on NPR with Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, where she attributes all of her success to the fact that her father encouraged her and her brother to fail and to make as many mistakes as they could and then talk about them. She said they talked about them at the dinner table every night. And so that when she got out in the world and was doing, was trying to build a business and trying to get her idea in front of somebody who would adopt that idea, she was so used to having doors closed in her face and to being told that it would never work and that it would never happen and that she was crazy. It didn't faze her at all. And I think, the way I was raised, one failure, you're just devastated, and it takes you so long to get over it. And, that's the hard way. The good way is to recognize each failure as an experience that's going to get you to the next place, and that's going to be, having a thick skin is very important. So whatever you can do to develop that thick skin, put yourself through it if you can.
Luck, that is great advice. it is in positive psychology, it's very much growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And if you have a growth mindset, or if you're trying to cultivate a growth mindset, it's that fail hard and fail fast and keep failing because that's where you learn and that's where you grow.
Well, why didn't they know about that 20, 30, 40 years ago? I mean, I think it's pretty new.
It is.
That way of thinking. And it's so wonderful that we have that because, it totally is going to, it's really going to benefit women to have that mindset and that way of thinking. And then, it'll benefit everybody.
I agree.
Particularly women.
I agree. Is there any piece of advice or motto that you use in your daily life that you'd like to share?
I did write it down because I don't want to get the words wrong, but it was a Picasso quote. I love it. It's like, the purpose of life is to find your gift and the meaning of life is to give it away. And that's, I spent a lot of time, especially when I was a religion major in college, I thought I was going to find the meaning of life somewhere in some religion. And of course, there is no paragraph that will answer all your questions about life's meaning. And there's no religion that really answers it either. I mean, if you have the good fortune to find what your gifts are, and those gifts can change throughout life, throughout the aging process, you can develop different gifts. But if you ever get to experience the feeling of finding what you think you're good at and giving it away and helping other people with that gift, that's about as close to nirvana as you're gonna get in my book. So
I agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I love to ask people what their favorite yoga pose is. Do you have a favorite yoga pose?
Well, I think you're laughing. I see your face. I am not into yoga, and I have tried. I'm just not into it. I feel like, it just isn't for me.
I love that answer. That's part of why I asked you, because I didn't think you were into yoga.
No, I'm not.
And I love that because it's such a testament of being who you are.
Yeah, and my son knows that about me, and he said, "Mom, just make something up. Just say something, because you don't want anybody to know that you're not into yoga." And I was like, well, they're going to have to find out. It's my deep, dark secret. I'm not into yoga.
I love it.
Definitely have tried.
What I've been doing with everyone that we haven't yet done is we've pulled animal spirit cards.
Okay, well, you did that with me one time, and I got something that was really goofy. I can't remember even what it was. It was like the rabbit.
Oh, yeah. So we'll pull a card, and
okay.
I put this in the beginning, but you're now the second person that I've done it with where I didn't think about it till towards the end. So we'll put this at the beginning. But
well, while you're shuffling the cards, I want to say one thing that I have. I'm so glad you're doing this podcast and that you are doing podcasts, because one of the things about your business that I think is going to make our community better is that you encourage people to endorse each other and help each other become stronger. And instead of what I grew up with, which was compete against each other and try to be better than everybody and be more successful than everybody, you're encouraging the women that you work with to support each other and to value each other, and that the value of that can be even greater than the value of competing. And so I hope that thread runs through all of the podcasts that people do with you. It is so important, and I think that it's kind of contagious. I've noticed since you started vocalizing that more, I've noticed other people vocalizing that and kind of adopting it and not really even attributing to where they got it. And maybe some of them don't even know where they got it. But it's definitely come from your work at Yoke and Abundance, from what I can tell.
Well, thank you.
And it's going to make our community different.
I believe very strongly that blowing out someone else's candle doesn't make yours brighter. And I don't know who said that. I've looked, actually. I've Googleized that to see where that's come from, and it doesn't have an author unknown, right? But to me, the essence of abundance, and I'll ask you more about that in a little bit, but the essence of abundance, which is what my business is based on, is that if we live in love and if we work from a place of abundance, we make everyone stronger.
Yeah, I think sometimes that can be a hard lesson to learn, because what we have learned is, from day one, it's all about competing. It really is. And I used to watch, how that influenced my own children when they were growing up, and I was so not into that. But it's really difficult to pull your own family away from that if you want them to be involved in sports, and if you want them to, go to a good college and all those kinds of things. You feel like you have to buy into the whole competition thing to some extent.
And I think competition can be healthy if you do it from a place of love. So I want to surround myself with other coaches that are better than what I'm doing, and I want to learn from them, and I want to see what I can do that maybe they're not doing, but not from a place of wanting to eradicate what they're doing, but from the place of wanting to personally get better.
It could be tough. It could be, it could be everything I've seen has been that people who are exposed to that way of thinking and who spend a little time in that thinking seem to want to adopt at least part of that in what they do. All right, should I pick a card?
Yes, go ahead and
pick
a card. Flip that one over.
All right.
Fire ants. So this is a fire card, and the fire cards are cards of change. And it means that the heat is on. It means that there is something right now that is happening that's leading towards change. And I'm going to read to you what it says about fire ants in particular.
Oh, that is so funny. I don't know if everybody has the experiences with fire ants that I have, but my mother was from a tiny town in South Georgia where fire ants are everywhere, and you couldn't go barefooted. You just couldn't.
I just spent the weekend literally massaging my 94-year-old grandmother's foot because she got bit by a fire ant before they left their home in Florida, and it was all swollen.
Oh, no.
So I was trying to make it feel better. But fire ants, according to the cards, aggression, rigid thinking, following orders. Fire ant energy flares up without us noticing. It's the force that attracts us to people and situations that feed our imbalances rather than those that counter them. Gossiping and blaming are a few indicators that misaligned fire ant energy is at play. You may also find yourself stewing on a person or situation, only making things worse. How can you break free from the drama and cool down? Fire ants are surprisingly sensitive. Don't pretend the heat isn't getting to you. When in balance, thoughtful and disciplined. When out of balance, argues, excess heat, and gossips. To bring into balance, solo time and walks at night. How did that land for you?
No, I think I picked the wrong card. I really don't. I really don't think that sounds like me at all.
No, you know what? So the thing that I think with these cards is it's not necessarily defining you. It's defining a situation in your life right now.
Okay. Well, I could maybe see that.
Yeah.
Definitely. I could maybe see that. And yeah. Every once in a while.
Well, in closing, I would love to know, and piggybacking off our last comment around abundance, how do you live a life of abundance?
What I love to do when I'm stuck or when I'm feeling like I've lost my creative energy, and this I just probably started doing it about 10 years ago, but anybody can do it, so I'm definitely going to be excited to tell your listeners. I like to go to other towns and see what's happening downtown. And that can be, the local coffee shop, it can be the local music, it can be the local brewery, it can be landscaping, or the new arts theater, or it can be just about anything. But I have found that almost every town in North Carolina has something going on downtown, and the ones that don't will not survive. That you just have to, because you've got to have people come to visit you and see what's happening, and you've got to have a central space where the community can gather for public events. Greensboro's downtown is really on fire. Winston-Salem's is too. We're starting to see this happening in High Point, Asheboro. Just amazing. There's so many neat places. Graham in North Carolina, downtown Burlington. I could really go on and on. I'm just trying to mention Triad towns right now that are easy drives from here that you can get to and come home and not have to spend the night. But that gets me energized. You're gonna, if you do that, you're gonna meet some of the most creative people and some of the folks that enjoy talking to other people and enjoy community. Often the farmers market in a town will be downtown on the weekends. That's a really awesome way to meet other people.
And nothing says abundance like a farmer's market.
True. And learn to cook if you don't already, because that is a great way. If you can find local food from local farmers and share it with others, there's nothing better.
Luck, thank you so much. I hope you were inspired by Luck's words of wisdom. If you've enjoyed this podcast, head over to iTunes, give us a review, and then remember, sharing is caring. So please share this podcast with a friend that could use a dose of inspiration and wisdom. When you share this podcast, it makes it possible for us to keep bringing wise words your way. Check out our website, yokeandabundance.com, for more words of wisdom, creativity tips, and information about my group and individual coaching programs. If you're a business that wants to reach a wide audience of women in the Triad and beyond, consider sponsoring a podcast in Season 2. You can reach out to me for more information about sponsorship on the Yoke and Abundance website. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Triad Local First, and my wonderful editor and producer, Ira Sterling at Julia Sound Recordings. Remember, every one of us has wisdom within. Keep sharing your words of wisdom, because you never know who you'll inspire.